This is the Resolute Podcast, where we are discipling and developing men to live with conviction. I am Vince Miller, your host, and today we are discussing Inauguration Day, the one good thing about today. Men, welcome back to the program. If this is your first time tuning in, then thanks for joining us. The Resolute Podcast is produced multiple times every week. We have Resolute study guides that go along with this podcast for your men's group, found on the website for members at beresolute.org. Come back often. Feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or in iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. All the links can be found on the website. So let's dive in. Well, guys, Inauguration Day is finally here. And I'm grateful that it is, and that we can move ahead. You know, I just simply have not been able to tolerate in my own heart the tension that we can feel in our country, and I'm sure you have felt it too. I'm not sure I can read another blog post on politics. I can't read any more of the hate that I see on social media. I'm watching as young children even say hateful things about our president. I watch the news as they infuriate the country's emotions and polarize people just to increase their ratings. And all of this has led to this unsettled feeling that I have in my heart regarding our country today, and I'm sure that you do as well. However, there is one really great thing about all this. It has driven me to pray for my country in ways that I've never prayed for my country before. You know, today I feel more passion to pray for my country than I ever have in my entire adult life. And it's because predominantly I've come to the conclusion spiritually that there is no one party that best represents my political position as a follower of Christ, combined with the feelings that I have in my heart and the understanding that God is the sovereign over all authorities on earth, and that by submitting to them, I submit to God's choices for me, regardless of what government I fall under. You know, there is some profound text in the Bible that actually addresses this topic. It's found in Romans 13. I just want you to let this wash over you for a second. Romans 13, verse 1. Listen as I read. Everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, he who rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted. And those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear? Yes, free from fear of the one who is in authority, then do what is right, and he will commend you, for he is God's servant to do you good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for God does not bear the sword for nothing. He is God's servant, an agent of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities not only because of possible punishment, but because of conscience. You know, I love these words here because they level set our hearts a bit. All the fears that we have, all the concerns that we have in our heart, it just reminds us here, Paul reminds us, that God is in full control of all things at all times. You know, in this great experiment in which we live, called the US of A, this democratic republic, which is just a big experiment that has never been done before, we have all kinds of freedom. We have freedom of thought, freedom of religion, we got a freedom of speech, and with all these freedoms, we can sure infuriate for ourselves a big mess, can't we? We each think that we are right in our own eyes, and because of that, it's empowered us to speak out on behalf of what we think is best. But we have to remember, we don't know what's best for us. We are sinful creatures, very emotional, making emotional decisions and decisions that are subjective to our own opinion, and we need outside sources to objectify for us what truth and what law is. Here, God has designed order. He is sovereign over all things. He has instituted governments and things like family and things like the church to be resources for us to essentially define law and what morality is for us. And we subject our hearts to that so we don't have to fear, so we can live in freedom from fear. And gentlemen, by subjecting ourselves to our government authorities on this day, we are choosing to submit ourselves to God. And by submitting ourselves to God, we trust in His providence. We trust in His sovereignty. We demonstrate that we are a follower of God and that we follow His good. So guys, we can let go of the tension today simply by praying for our leaders, by praying for those in charge, praying for our government, praying for our president, praying for their morality, for their choices, and even their salvation. Because God is sovereign over all things, and He calls the lost to Him. And by our submission to Him and our prayers, we can bring about change in this world and in this nation. Oh, what a day, a new day, a day to let go. Well, gentlemen, that's the show. Thanks for listening. Men, I want to encourage you to find a couple of other men to join in with you. You know, listening on your own is great, but listening with other men is even better. I would encourage you to today define some people that you can pray with around our next leader, around his choices for leaders, around our government and its future. And I would pray, guys, pray. Let go of the tension and pray. Submit and pray to God. So guys, get off the bench, get into the game. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me at info@beresolute.org. And until next time, I love you guys. Be, live, and act resolute.